On this Thursday night, Toronto police tweet out a rare public warning that raises more questions than it answers. Officers serve residents and tourists with a heavy downtown presence, all the while telling people to just carry on with what they're doing as normal. A confusing message for a city with a deadly van attack still on the mind.
Also tonight, the U.S. president takes his tough talk from Brussels to Britain. Protesters of Donald Trump are set to unleash their scorn tomorrow, but today was all about the pomp. Trump's grand tour of Europe continues. This is The National.
From cops and cruisers on street corners to confused and cautious text messages from family and friends, there was an air of tension in downtown Toronto today. Armed and watchful, even as they made clear in a midday news conference that Toronto police wouldn't say what they were watching out for. Jacqueline Hansen explains.
This many officers in downtown Toronto is unusual. So was a vague tweet this morning from police. It said police are responding to an unconfirmed, uncorroborated piece of information relating to the Greater Toronto Area. As a result, there is an increased number of police officers in the downtown core.
Everywhere you look, there's police officers everywhere, so you just hope for the best and that it's really nothing.
Makes me a little edgy, but what do you do?
But it was a press conference, not an incident, that ended up being the spectacle.
Toronto police received information regarding a potential risk to public safety.
Police didn't reveal what the tip was or who it came from.
We're not going to comment on anything to do with the information received.
In fact, he encouraged people to go about their business as usual.
I can't recall the last time that we had a press conference of this nature where the Toronto Police Service said, look, we have some information, it's unconfirmed, it's uncorroborated, but we're taking it seriously, and so we're acting on it.
The recent van attack on Toronto's busy Yonge Street that killed 10 people has likely changed how police respond.
There's a lot of pressure that if you have any inkling that something similar to that's going to happen, you're going to act on it. You're not going to ignore it.
The moving company U-Haul says it was told by police to watch out for suspicious behavior when renting out vehicles. It says U-Haul was one of many companies contacted by the Ontario Provincial Police on July 11th with a request to remain vigilant in reporting suspicious activity in the Toronto area. But today, at the hub of the city's most well-known tourist attractions, some of the extra police on patrol chatted with curious people passing by and helped with directions. And some music fans plan to be back tonight no matter what for a Foo Fighters concert.
Terrorism ranks here on my list of importance. Foo Fighters ranks here. I'm not going to let someone ruin my freedom. You know, I want to see a concert. Show must go on.
Okay, so Jacqueline's in the heart of downtown Toronto now. So many people were getting text messages today saying, you know, is everything okay? What basically is the public supposed to make of all this, to do with this information?
I know. Police, they were in a tough spot. If they didn't come out and say why there were extra officers on the streets, there would have been even more questions. And like you said, this is one of the areas downtown where we saw an increased police presence. And if you just take a look behind me, actually, there's now a dump truck blocking this street along with a police car. But this, Adrian, is actually normal for this area. That concert that I mentioned earlier is happening at the Rogers Centre just behind me. So Toronto regularly increases security measures when there's going to be a lot of people in one location for an event. Today's efforts were extra, an attempt to keep things calm. And even though politicians and police have said again and again recently that this city is safe, today's events, but also the recent string of shootings in the city have made people question that. Today, though, it seems it was more about action. So the increased police presence downtown, but also we heard that they'll be adding 200 extra officers overnight on the streets during the sort of peak hours for gun violence. So both attempts to deter bad behavior, but also reassure people, Adrian, that this city is still safe.
Okay, Jacqueline, thanks very much. A fine balance there.
Here's a look at what else we're working on tonight. The Canadian diver who helped rescue the trapped soccer team talks to CBC on the ground in Thailand, why he says the boys are the real brave ones.
And as Doug Ford's government follows through on its plan to scrap Ontario's updated sex ed curriculum, we'll look at what Canadian kids are learning from province to province.
First, though, Donald Trump in the UK tonight, the second stop in his European trip, the second location where other world leaders seem to be walking on eggshells. And today that was in Britain, with the Prime Minister facing down a nasty political battle over Brexit. Enter a U.S. president whose support she could really use. But as Susan Ormiston explains, that's not what Donald Trump seemed to have in mind.
Pomp and ceremony at Blenheim Palace. A welcome serenade from Welsh, Irish and Scots Guards. Exactly the image this president wants from his first British tour. Long delayed and argued over. Never mind that 70% of this country not here tonight doesn't like him, and half didn't want him to come. No matter, when he can be greeted by business leaders and cabinet ministers at a gala in the place Winston Churchill was born. Then watch the current Prime Minister woo him. Theresa May needs more from the U.S., more trade, fewer tariffs, especially now.
She's in a very difficult spot right now, and it's sort of a catch-22 because of Brexit. So on the one hand, Brexit has made the U.S. more important to the UK, because now that they're downgrading their relationship with the European Union, they need to find new partners. At the same time, Trump is not the partner that the British public wants.
Already, Trump has thrown a grenade into British politics. In a Sun interview published tonight, he dumped on May's Brexit plan.
If they do a deal like that, it will most likely, because we'll be dealing with the European Union instead of dealing with the UK. So it will probably kill the deal with, if they do that, their trade deal with the US will probably not be made.
Her nightmare. Protesters don't trust him, won't even see him as he travels from one stately British venue to another, hermetically sealed in US helicopters.
I think he knows that no one likes him in this country. I mean, he's saying that people do. I think he knows he's unpopular here.
If he does, he's not admitting it.
I think it's fine. I mean, I think they like me a lot in the UK.
Well, not baby Ivy, fed up with being a prop for another baby, a floating symbol of a childish president, say the organizers, complete with a tweeting tool.
Message that we want to send to people who are suffering because of the Trump administration is that we're still here and not giving up, and we don't want them to give up either.
But the gimmick, floating over Parliament tomorrow, is risky to some.
He carries a reputation for being a bit thin-skinned, which is a big concern, especially when there's so much at stake with the trade wars that's going on.
More movements tomorrow, again by chopper. This tour designed to avoid meeting any ordinary Brits, even those who support him. So tonight, the Trumps are back at their hotel, so to speak. It's the U.S. ambassador's residence right behind me, behind that security fence recently erected here in Regent's Park, looking a bit like a fortress. They'll sleep here tonight, their only London stop of the entire tour in.
And this is billed, Susan, as a working visit, so when does that work begin?
Yeah, well, tomorrow at Chequers with the Prime Minister on the agenda, of course, trade, Brexit. President Trump has already waded into that, suggesting Brits may not get what they voted for, causing a stir here already. And Russia, with that summit just days away. And then the Queen gets her chance to take a measure of her 12th U.S. president. Not a state banquet like the Obamas got. The Trumps have been invited for tea at Windsor Castle.
Susan Ormiston in London, thank you. Now, a reserved British welcome or not, Trump is riding a wave of self-declared success, claiming credit for getting all NATO countries to agree to boost military spending to 2%. Canada, though, says that is simply not the case. Catherine Cullen has both views from Brussels.
I believe in NATO. I think NATO is very important, probably the greatest ever done.
Donald Trump has called NATO obsolete. Just yesterday, he asked what good it was. But this morning, the U.S. president basically said he's fixed it.
And everybody in the room thanked me. There's a great collegial spirit in that room that I don't think they've had in many years. They're very strong. So Yeah, very, very unified, very strong, no problem.
He insisted he'd secured a commitment from all alliance members to spend 2% of their country's economic output on the military and to do it soon.
We will go to much higher than 2% into the future, but right now we're getting people up to 2%, and that'll take place over a fairly short period of time, a short number of years.
But that's not quite what Justin Trudeau says Canada has committed to.
Canada is going to continue to increase our defense spending by...
Increase, yes, but the Prime Minister stated clearly on Tuesday Canada is not planning to actually hit the 2% spending target.
No, there are no plans to double our defense budget.
So did Donald Trump change the Prime Minister's mind today?
Yes, we are increasing by 70% over the next decade our defense investments.
But not doubling the budget, and yet Donald Trump is saying
70 is not doubling. Yeah. No, it's
yet Donald Trump is saying, as you're aware, that all of the allies, NATO allies, and he was asked specifically about Canada today, are going to reach 2%. How do you explain the fact that he seems to think you've committed to this?
We have recommitted to our Wales engagements. The Wales commitment to reverse the decline in spending and increase our spending towards 2%. That's exactly what we are doing.
And toward is the key word there. There's no plan for Canada to actually reach that goal. Now, Justin Trudeau has insisted that Canada is still pulling its weight with quality commitments to NATO. He didn't actually say at any point today that he and Donald Trump are not on the same page on this issue, even though they clearly are not. But it does mean that the Prime Minister will leave this international summit, it seems, without ticking off Donald Trump. Catherine Cullen, CBC News, Brussels.
So after all of his tough talk at the NATO summit, how will Donald Trump do at his much anticipated summit with Vladimir Putin next week in Helsinki? On that topic, Trump was a little less definitive today.
Somebody was saying, is he an enemy? No, he's not my enemy. Is he a friend? No, I don't know him well enough. He's a competitor. He's representing Russia. I'm representing the United States.
The president does think he'll get along well with Putin, but when asked what he thought the ultimate outcome would be, he struck an almost scornful tone.
Well, let's see. No more nuclear weapons anywhere in the world would be the ultimate, okay? No more wars, no more problems, no more conflict. Let's find a cure to every disease known to mankind or womankind.
Trump said he'll raise disagreements over Syria, Ukraine, and allegations of Russian meddling in U.S. politics, but he's not expecting any firm action from Moscow.
Back at home now, and the official start of a new era in Ontario, the first legislative day on the job for Premier Doug Ford and the newly elected Progressive Conservative government. And that means it was time for the throne speech, laying out the blueprint for changes to come.
The era of accounting tricks and sleight of hand must end. It will also include a thorough...
At the top, a commission of inquiry will look at government spending. There were also nods to familiar campaign promises to bring beer and wine to corner stores and to scrap the province's cap-and-trade program. The new government also recommitted itself to some big changes in schools, including the repeal of a sex education curriculum introduced by the Liberal government 3 years ago. Now, that move is certainly not without controversy. Ron Charles has been tracking reaction to it all and has the story from Toronto.
Our government wants to scrap current sex ed. Well, we're going to save it.
Sexuality educator Nadine Thornhill plans to release YouTube videos teaching every part of the sex education guidelines Ontario's PC government is scrapping.
I'm actually going to be teaching them so that, teachers or even parents who want to share this information at home will have an example of how to do that, and they'll have access to all of the information.
That sex ed information had become a lightning rod for vocal groups of parents who fought against it, complaining it taught too much too soon and included references to same-sex relationships. Now parents and educators who support that sex ed information are gearing up to fight against scrapping it and the government's plan to return to the old curriculum from 1998.
Things like sexting, things like cyberbullying, these are not things that we had to deal with in 1998. So it's critical to teach our kids how to communicate in respectful ways with one another.
Major unions for elementary and secondary school teachers also slammed the switch to the old curriculum. Some teachers have started talking about including elements of the scrapped sex ed material in other parts of the curriculum, something the unions say teachers have always had the leeway to do.
They will, when they feel it's appropriate, to expand on curriculum or expand on ideas that they're dealing with in their classrooms in an age-appropriate way, in a time-sensitive way. They will do that, and they've always done that.
Aside from Thornhill's YouTube sex ed teach-in, there are petitions and protests planned against what critics call a return to an outdated curriculum. Ron Charles, CBC News, Toronto.
So sex education in Canada varies greatly by province, and there's a lack of consistency in what is taught and when. For instance, children are expected to know the proper names for body parts in kindergarten in BC, Alberta, Manitoba, and Quebec. But that isn't in New Brunswick's curriculum until grade 6. Sexual orientation is taught in Saskatchewan and Nova Scotia in grade 3, grade 9 in Newfoundland and Labrador. And while every province talks about sex, only one curriculum devotes time to love: Quebec.
Taking you to Thailand now, where the Thai Navy SEALs who helped rescue those 12 boys and their soccer coach from a flooded cave received a hero's welcome today. This was the scene at an airbase outside Bangkok as the SEAL team touched down. Dozens of people were there, including some of the boys' relatives, to say thank you. The man who led the team called it a group effort, urging the kids to live their lives worthily. The Thai Navy SEALs were supported by expert divers from around the world, among them Erik Brown, originally from Langley, just east of Vancouver. Briar Stewart caught up with him in Thailand.
When divers went in to swim out the soccer team one by one, others stood ready to help them make it through the muddy water and precarious passages. Erik Brown was part of that crew. He's a Canadian who now lives in Thailand.
Definitely tell you that they called in the best in the world for this, for sure.
He says the whole experience hasn't really sunk in yet.
In 6 months, when you can go in there dry and you can sort of see exactly what this is like, and just navigating through it's one thing, but actually going there and searching and finding these ways, like to both those names, it's unreal.
The divers have been praised for their expertise and heroism, but Brown believes it's the boys who did something pretty incredible.
A testament to those, how brave they were, and it's mind-blowing what those kids have sort of gone through and how strong they were.
It was the team's assistant coach, Ekapol Chantawong, who decided to take the kids into the cave in the first place. But he's also being credited for helping them survive. He gave them his food, jeopardizing his own health, and he tried to keep them calm. He loves the children, says his aunt, Tama Kantawong, who went to the hospital today. She knew she wouldn't be able to give him a hug or even talk to him yet because he and the rest of the team are in isolation. Still, she wanted to at least see him through the glass window. But after driving an hour and a half to the hospital, she was told by security she would have to come back later. I want to tell him to keep fighting and be strong, she says. And the 25-year-old coach has done that before. Both of his parents and his younger brother died when he was just a child. Even though he grew up in northern Thailand, he's an ethnic minority and considered stateless. While his life has been full of struggles, his aunt says coaching the team brought him joy. Well, many will question just why the boys were taken into that cave during the rainy season. Once they were trapped, she says her nephew did everything possible to keep them alive until rescuers could lead them all out. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Chiang Rai.
We're keeping an eye on a number of other developing stories tonight, including an explosion near Egypt's Cairo airport. Egyptian state media says 12 people were hurt. Those living near the airport reported feeling the blast. Video on social media shows flames and smoke rising near the airport. A military spokesperson says the blast happened at a chemicals factory and was caused by high temperatures. Well, this was the view for one of our colleagues driving in Newfoundland today as post-tropical storm Chris batters southeastern parts of the island. The good news, the storm will pass by tomorrow morning.
Ahead tonight on The National, there's a new character coming to Avonlea, and he's a sign of a new trend in period dramas. We'll look at the push to represent a more inclusive history.
And we'll take you inside a different sort of classroom in the United States where teachers are students and they're learning to carry guns.
First, though, her son was killed in an accident at a Canadian Forces base here at home. An accident she's now being told was preventable.
It's like unbelievable. It's just crazy. I just don't get it. The Army killed my son. Like, there's no other way of saying it.
They came in their thousands to this shrine of aviation to witness history replayed and in some cases bag it to take with them.
This is hallowed ground and I consider it sacred. I'm an aviation enthusiast.
No shortage of those on this rain-drenched day, among them movie star John Travolta and President Bush.
And on the day they did fly, just like today, the conditions were not ideal. But they went ahead anyway.
There's a Canadian-built jet trainer.
Overhead, a Canadian contribution, a fly past by two snowbirds, here to mark the centennial of the Wright brothers' first flight.
It really hit home that hey, we flew 100 years to the day over the exact same site. It still hasn't totally sunk in, I don't think.
I often wonder if Uncle Orr fully understood the gift, the view he and Uncle Will would give the world from these beautiful sandy dunes on December 17th in 1903.
On that date, two brothers from Dayton, Ohio achieved what no one else had, controlled heavier-than-air flight. Today it seems like such a modest achievement. Beginning from the point of that granite marker, the Wrights spent just 12 seconds in the air, a mere 120 feet to land here. And yet, even that short hop truly was, to coin a later phrase, a giant leap for mankind.
Countdown to Kitty Hawk.
A leap this team of aviators hope to replicate with their wood, cloth, and wire reproduction of the Wrights flying machine.
There she goes!
After a 2-hour wait, the rains finally subsided, and the replica flyer trundled down its runway, tantalizingly close to taking off before splashing into a mud puddle. Disappointing the pilot, but not the crowd.
Officials could have prevented the death of a Canadian soldier 4 years ago, according to the head of an inquiry into the incident. A deadly hazard lurked inside their light armored vehicles, something the Canadian Armed Forces knew about but did not fix. Ashley Burke has the story from Ottawa.
Anna Loveman drives hours to attend military events like this. She doesn't want her son Kyle Sinclair to be forgotten.
He was so good with kids. I mean, he would have been a great dad.
CBC News obtained a Board of Inquiry report into his death. It found that in 2014, Sinclair was ordered to fix a seatbelt inside a Coyote armored vehicle. He pulled a lever to raise the driver's seat. The seat shot upward, pinning him at the neck against the roof of the vehicle, crushing his windpipe. He was all alone with no way to escape. Later in hospital, his mother made the difficult decision to take him off life support.
You're almost numb, like you just don't really think that this is really happening. And then when you see the straight line, you go, okay, it did. So.
The president of the Board of Inquiry calls Sinclair's death needless.
I thought a good young man had passed away in fairly awful circumstances, and it didn't need to happen.
The inquiry revealed that another member of the military died in the same way as Sinclair back in 1999. Changes to the driver's seat were recommended back then to eliminate the threat. The Army decided against that, saying those changes would compromise soldiers' protection from shrapnel and bullets.
That decision directly affected or caused, in the end, the death of Craftsman Sinclair.
Perron says that decision was made by the brigade commander, who at the time was Andrew Leslie, now a Liberal member of Parliament. Leslie has declined CBC's request for an interview. The Army has since replaced the hazardous seats in all its Coyotes, except for 5 stationed in Latvia.
We've learned from it, and we're safer today than we were yesterday.
Ashley Burke, CBC News, CFB Petawawa.
Up next on The National, sure, they smiled for the camera, accepted their Chase the Ace winnings, but that's when it turned ugly for this aunt and her nephew. Why the next time they see each other could be in court.
And a little later, the surprise delivery that brought together an entire neighborhood.
My wife, like in the middle of the stairs here, and then she started yelling and screaming. And then I was like, oh my God, what's going on? And then she said, I feel something is coming out.
Finding Cleo chronicles the search by her siblings to find their missing sister.
What do you do when complete strangers come and grab you, throw in a car, and push your grandma out of the way, and they take you away?
They last saw her in 1974 when she was ripped away from her family and adopted into an American home during the infamous 60s scoop.
She was yelling, she was crying. She tried to hitchhike back to Little Pine, back home to the reserve, but was picked up, raped, and murdered, and left by the side of the road.
It's a gripping listen spread over 10 episodes, packed with meticulous detail, as CBC News journalists, led by host Connie Walker, join Cleo's family in their search for answers.
But to not know anything, not be told anything, and then this child just disappear into thin air, no. Something's amok.
Not exactly the 140-character headlines we've been told people want. And yet, it has soared to the top of the iTunes charts in Canada and the U.S. So, has podcasting become the way forward for investigative reporting?
So, Connie, I know you've done investigative work in the past, but the podcasts are so singularly successful. In your view, is this the way for investigative journalists to show their work now?
I really hope so. I think it's such a fantastic format for investigative reporting because, as you mentioned, you know, when we're doing something for online or for television or radio, it's 1:30, 2 minutes if you're lucky. You know, we're doing a doc for the National that's 12 minutes maximum.
Which is so long in TV terms.
Exactly. And the podcast will end up being about 8 hours. And there is a huge audience now that's interested in putting headphones in their ears and listening to this kind of long format storytelling. And I think it's particularly important for investigative reporting because you can actually get into the weeds and really dig deep on a single story. We've been working on this one for over a year. But it's also fantastic because it allows you and gives you the space to tell the bigger story. To tell the bigger story, in this case, of the 60s scoop and the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women in Canada, and to provide the context that people need to really understand these issues.
And I think also as a journalist, I'm hearing the journalism, I'm hearing the work, because there is so much minutia in the day-to-day of gathering this information. So let's give people just a sample of what we're talking about when we say the minutia. Listen to this.
We're planning a trip to meet Johnny in person. But in the meantime, we call their brother Mark. He was adopted in Saskatchewan, but now lives in Edmonton, Alberta.
Sorry, I just wanted to put my headphones on so I could take notes.
Yeah, no worries.
It's that kind of detail. I'm putting on my headphones. I'm hearing you in that conversation that normally we wouldn't put in a story. We wouldn't even think about it because those are precious seconds taken away from something else.
Exactly. And I think that so much of investigative reporting has been focusing on the end result. CBC News has learned X, Y, and Z. That's the headline. Even though we often spend weeks or months looking into a story, and the podcast allows you to report on that story. And I think if, you know, we're in this era of people being concerned about fake news and what is real and what is not. And I think that what that really is a conversation about is transparency. And in the podcast, when we actually show how we're making the decisions, we're outside somebody's house and we're on the phone with our senior producer. Should we knock on the door? What are the concerns? What are the JSP issues that we need to be mindful of? Should we be rolling? You know, and we include all of that in the podcast. And I hope, or the intent is, to invite the listeners and the audience in to our process. And I think hopefully that engages them in a new way, but also, you know, helps people realize the in-depth work that we do and how and why we do it.
And I mean, the audience reaction is just hands down, they love it. So clearly people are interested in the kind of detail that we commonly leave out.
Police in Toronto say they have now completed their search of a property linked to alleged serial killer Bruce McArthur. This is where earlier this year they found the remains of 7 men, and where last week they found more, though we don't know to whom those belong. McArthur has been charged with 8 counts of first-degree murder.
There's your ace of spades.
Well, it all seemed like such a happy moment. A nephew and his aunt splitting a $1.2 million check, winnings from the local Chase the Ace, essentially a fundraising lottery. But things suddenly took a turn when the aunt, Barbara Erik, said the jackpot was hers alone.
Chase the Ace winners is going to court. I'm taking them to court. It was my ticket.
Why's that?
Because I bought the ticket, and now he's trying to lie and say I said split.
Now, both names were on the ticket, but Erik says she put her nephew's name on it for good luck. The chair of the fundraiser says she's disappointed with how things played out today.
I can't really explain it. I didn't really expect anything like that to happen. I just came to deliver the checks and present them to the winners.
Curley says she checked with the province's alcohol and gaming division before writing the 2 checks, and they were fine with her decision. Now, as you've heard, it may be up to a court.
Peel back most period pieces, forget the costumes, ignore the detailed sets, and you mostly find white actors playing white characters. The argument often, well, that's who the movers and shakers were at the time. It's a practice the makers of the CBC Netflix reboot of Anne of Green Gables are directly challenging. As Deanna Sumanak-Johnson found out, they're doing it without breaking historical accuracy or resorting to blatant tokenism.
You all white boy. You got options. You're a tourist. Like, don't lose this word for me. You understand?
When Dalmar Abuzaid plays Bash in the upcoming season of Anne with an E, he'll be doing more than just adding a new character who didn't exist in the Anne of Green Gables books the series is based on. He will also help change the face of historical drama.
I kind of didn't realize sort of the implications of the role, and I think after the fact I started to put things together of like, oh wow, what does this mean for the story of Anne of Green Gables, my character, my introduction to it.
It's something that showrunner Moira Wally-Beckett has given a lot of thought.
My master plan from the beginning has always been to make the world of Avonlea reflect the diverse colors of Canada.
I remembered that the real Anne with an E is at the vanguard of a new generation of TV series which are challenging the tradition that historical drama has to be about white people only.
Good morning, Papa.
Morning. What's that?
Just arrived.
With their big budgets, lavish costumes, and sweeping narratives, period pieces like Downton Abbey make for perennially popular television. But these shows don't reflect everyone watching them today. For years, the reasoning behind this casting was that it was about historical accuracy.
Would it be fair to say that period drama or period television is sort of the last bastion of where it's difficult to push diversity or difficult to have a diverse cast?
Are you saying that it's the whitest spot on the
dial?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, it's the whitest spot on the dial. So
rather than just putting non-white actors into traditionally white roles, TV creators like Sud Sutherland are shining a light on little explored parts of history.
This school has like 14 nationalities.
These are archival photos of Toronto a century ago.
When I'm doing a period piece, I want to inspire the crew and the cast and tell them, just build a world. So what I want to do and I want to show people is that, well, actually, it's a lot more diverse than you thought. How you doing?
Sutherland often uses archival photos and census records to try to convince producers diverse historical projects are worth doing. It hasn't always worked, but he thinks things are changing.
I waited my entire life for this.
With the commercial success of films like Black Panther, producers now have proof that diversity isn't just the right thing to do. It makes money.
As a viewer, if you were a Japanese Canadian person and you see yourself in that period piece, you're like, oh, there's a little glimmer of recognition. But if I have a character and if I have a speaking part, then my humanity is actually sort of not in question.
Welcome to the sanctuary.
Sutherland is in good company of TV creators around the world who are mining untold histories. There's Hulu's Harlots, about two rival brothels in Victorian England.
I think you're forgetting your place.
BBC's The Miniaturist, which takes place in the golden age of Amsterdam in the 17th century.
My place is to protect this house and all in it, including you.
One of the rewards of telling these stories, the audience learns something new, and sometimes so do the creators. It happened when Anne with an E showrunner Moira Wally-Beckett wanted to infuse her series with more diverse characters. She called up TV writer Shernold Edwards.
So I said to her, did you have any idea that there have been Black people in Prince Edward Island since 1751? And she was like, no, I didn't. And I was like, most people don't. Let me tell you.
While working on a different project, Edwards, who is Trinidadian Canadian, discovered the bog.
That's where the majority of Black people lived in Prince Edward Island, and they came from the States as runaway slaves. They were former soldiers. Some people traveled across from the West Indies, and they formed a community.
We'll face it as a family.
And that community will be prominently featured on the new season of Anne with an E, alongside the new major character, Bash. For actor Dalmar Abouzaid, it's his chance to leave his mark on Green Gables and its many fans and make television history along the way.
I hope that they are touched. I hope that they fall in love. I hope that they laugh. I hope that they get all of those things that help to make Anne what it is.
I've been trimmer for 10 years, more. This is all I have.
Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
Still ahead on The National, our Nick Purdon follows a group of American teachers training to carry guns in schools.
I coach football. Those are my sons. Those are my boys out there. I treat them like my kid. So if something comes in, I feel that it's my job to protect them all.
But first, a good deal draws a crowd. Lines like this formed across the U.S., UK, and Canada today, all for teddy bears.
And how long have you been in line?
For like 500 million hours.
In adult hours, she's actually not too far off, all because for the first time, the toy taxidermists at Build-A-Bear were offering a pay-your-age promotion.
How much was your bear? In total, $27.
Not bad. With accessories, a bear or a unicorn or what we're told is something called a jigglypuff could run you more than $100.
Here you go. Thank you. Awesome.
But as lines snaked around the block in Nova Scotia, Florida, California, safety concerns ultimately forced the company to shut it all down. It's now offering vouchers as compensation.
I'm from Port Francis, Ontario area, Rainy River First Nations, and I'm Karen Chavoyer. I really had a good upbringing up until the age of 6 when I went to residential school. I always wanted to be with my older siblings. I knew they went to school, but I didn't know what school was. And then when I went, I was excited to go with them, to be finally in with them, but I didn't know what I was in for. Because we lived in the bush and that, I was so used to being isolated, I didn't know what going uptown really was. And I seen this big school, and then I was separated from my family. Separated from my brothers, because they were on the boys' side, and then separated from my older sister, who was 8 years older than me, and she was on the big girl side. So I was all alone for the first 2 years, all by myself.
And it was really, really hard. I'd get in trouble when I'd see my brothers or my brothers in the dining hall. I'd see them from a distance, and I sometimes want to get their attention, and I'd, yell their name or wave at them, and I'd get heck. And the same thing outside was that we had a big white fence, and I would see them on the other side of the fence, and there would be knotholes in the fence, and I'd be yelling their name, and I'd get heck from the nuns there. And another thing that really bothered me was learning about the religion and knowing that I was going to hell just being Native and trying to be a good person and always failing. That was really hard. And I just was never good enough. And I tried at school. So I found out, all these, my parents didn't teach us the language, even though they spoke it fluently. And I didn't know why, and I never asked why. The only thing I can think of today is they were trying to protect us, because I've seen so many that didn't know one word of English get beat. One of the things that I struggled with was living under tension all the time, walking on eggshells, because I'd be so, from being scared, from seeing others get beat, and I tried so hard to be good. I had this best friend, and I never knew why we quit talking to each other. And I knew I chummed around with her and everything. So I got up enough nerve. I didn't know what it was. I just said, how come we quit talking to each other in residential school? And she says, you don't remember? And I said, no. And she said, we weren't allowed to have friends, so they separated us.
Much more important that we fix these issues on a systemic level, because it happens so quickly, and you're talking about chaos, and everybody is going to die if you do not get a handle on the situation.
The mass murder at a Florida high school last Valentine's Day is the subject of a state commission this week. Parents, police officers, and legislators are all talking, hoping to prevent school shootings. The Parkland tragedy left 17 people dead and 17 others injured. Since then, one debate has centered on whether teachers should have guns in the classroom and whether that would actually save lives. Earlier this year, our Nick Purdon took us inside a course with a special curriculum, arming teachers.
Ceasefire, ceasefire. When that active killer is in that classroom, that teacher can either have a pencil or they can have a gun.
I'll get the door. No. I think I did okay. It's my first live shooter simulation, so hopefully next time it'll be better.
Those teachers that want that protection to use a firearm in a school, we provide the training and certification for them to do that.
One of the most visceral reactions to the recent shooting in Parkland, Florida, was to give teachers guns. And it's an idea that has divided the United States. So I've come to Arlington, Texas, to follow a group of teachers getting trained to carry a gun in their classrooms. And really, the question I have is a visceral one as well. Guns, teachers, can they really go together?
The three questions of when you have to decide, according to state law, to shoot, what are they? Do I have to do it? Do I have to do it now? Is there anything else I can do or I will die or be seriously injured, right?
This is Brian Proctor. He was a police officer for 20 years. Now retired, he's one of the only people in the country qualified to train teachers to defend their schools with guns.
There are killers in our environment. They will find the weakest people to be able to kill, the ones that are the most defenseless, and they will go after them. If you call 911, the killing's already started. You've got to have someone there when it starts to be able to mitigate that damage.
And these are the volunteers for the job. Among Brian's students, there's Norman Rangel, he's a principal, Jermaine Chambers, football coach, and J.C. Daly is a librarian at a high school. Now, each of them is already licensed to carry a gun, but to carry at school, they need to pass this training and get permission from their school board. First, I meet J.C. Daly.
Well, I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe we have a right to defend ourselves. I believe that if somebody's attacking us, we don't just sit and huddle. I mean, we actually have skills and are empowered in this country to defend ourselves.
It was J.C.'s idea to take this course. She volunteered. And part of her motivation, she tells me, is that she has 2 kids of her own.
As a parent, I would be, I would at least want to know that my kid's teacher was carrying a gun.
Questions?
No.
All right.
Now, the teaching here is done through pretend scenarios, with a killer trying to enter the classroom.
Ceasefire! Ceasefire!
So this is what they're shooting, they're training rounds. They're about 10 times as powerful as paintball rounds, but they actually do shoot, they hurt. That's why people are wearing these.
Now it's J.C.'s turn.
Questions?
No.
Go, go, go!
Get over in the corner. Get chairs in front of you.
You ever been that stressed?
No.
How's your heart rate?
Oh, it's really high. My hands are shaking, my heart's pounding. My voice is shaking, I can feel it.
After seeing how shaken J.C. is, I wonder how realistic it is to ask teachers to go after shooters in schools. But Brian says that's not what he's trying to do.
The goal is not to find and go after the shooter. The goal is to protect the kids in their care in that classroom that they have control over. They are not trained to go after the killer. Go, go, go! I'm gonna get you!
Let's see how other teachers do. Here's Jermaine's scenario.
What's going on? I coach football. Those are my sons. Those are my boys out there. I treat them like my kids. So if something comes in, I feel that it's my job to protect them all.
Ceasefire! Ceasefire!
How was that?
Oh,
You
yeah.
might hit the up here, but he did it in one time right there. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, saw the big gun come in and you just, hey, protect them, shoot, hey, aim for the best.
You can have that, or you can have a pencil.
Pencil, what a pencil gonna do?
I mean, that's what Parkland found out too. All right.
What occurs to me, and as incredible as it sounds, the goal of the training is for the teachers to control the adrenaline rush, the fear, to be cool under pressure. The next part of getting teachers ready happens here. They each have to show that they can shoot accurately. But can you ever be ready to face a gunman?
Do you think your students or these teachers are ready? If something happens, if someone comes into their school with an AR-15?
I think nobody's ready for that. I don't think anybody's ready for that. I've been in combat situations. I'm telling you, I'm never ready for that. But you have to realize that there's no great solution. There's just a better response.
So what's the plan here?
So basically what we're going to do is, the plan is we're going to set up these targets. We're going to shoot about 200 rounds. And out of these 200 rounds, I want to see a good percentage of them in the bad guy, not missed off the target, and not in our good kid.
Or they fail.
Or they fail. If you cannot get a good shot, don't pull it off. I don't care if you're left with ammo in the gun. I don't. What I care about is if you start missing your main target.
JC tells me she understands full well that taking her gun into her school is controversial.
A school, it's traditionally a safe place. I mean, it's where innocence is, it's our children. And so I think you have a great polarity there between a gun, which is such a visual image of violence and killing and hatred, and then innocent children. To me, I feel like it's my job to protect that in a sense, you know, to protect those kids that are in my care.
Line is ready. Make your guns safe. Okay, so here's how this runs out. Everybody here passed the proficiency. According to the Department of Public Safety, you passed the proficiency. So how do y'all feel?
Not satisfied.
If you're not satisfied with it, I'm a happy person. Because what would I be satisfied with if I was the one shooting this?
100%.
100%. That's what I would be satisfied for.
What do you, wow. What do you think?
Well, it's not very good. When I first came up and looked at it, of course I looked at my misses, but not knowing what those meant. And then I looked at that precious little baby with all of the holes in his head. I mean, I obviously did some damage to the bad guy too, but I need some practice. That's what I think.
Does it make it real? Does it make it more real looking at that? Like seeing our kid and the holes?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I have 7-year-old boys, so they're about that size. For sure. It just made it real. It's a big responsibility. It's a big responsibility.
We can tell you that at least one teacher in Nick's documentary got school board approval and will carry a firearm in their school this fall. And Brian Proctor, that firearms instructor, tells us the demand for training in Texas has accelerated since the spring when we brought you that story. He says he's working with 10 new school districts this summer to train and certify their employees.
Still to come on The National, how an unexpected birth in the middle of a Gatineau sidewalk brought a whole neighborhood together.
I've been coming, we live in the same street. And then when I come home, and then I will say hi once in a while, and someone else will say hi. But at that specific point, it was a big family.
But first, it's a new era for the Emmys. For the first time, a streaming service has received more nominations than TV networks.
What is it that you'd have me change?
Everything.
Make that 112 nominations for Netflix, ending HBO's 17-year streak as the leading network. And that's thanks to shows like The Crown and Stranger Things. It's not the only streaming service that was honored.
My name is June Osborne. I am free.
Hulu's Handmaid's Tale, the dystopian sci-fi series that claimed top drama last year, got 20 nominations. And then there's Amazon's The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel with 14. Still, HBO's Game of Thrones topped the list as the most nominated show.
I've not come to conquer the North. I'm coming to save the North.
22 this time around. And of course, we should mention the Canadian nominees.
I am going to find the thing you care about, and I am going to kill it.
Sandra Oh making history as the first woman of Asian heritage nominated for lead actress in a drama series for her role in BBC America's Killing Eve. In a statement, Oh wrote that she feels tremendous gratitude and joy with this nomination, adding, P.S. I think my mother at the moment may actually be satisfied. Canadian Tatiana Maslany was also nominated for her role in Orphan Black. The winners will be announced at the Primetime Emmy Awards September 17th.
There has been a lot of books and reading materials which are being left for the urban waste. People were leaving them just aside the garbage bins. The first people who noticed that there was such a potential of reusing, reorganizing such kind of material, this idea came from our waste collection workers. We started collecting them, and then the classification and this library idea emerged, and we are very happy with the results. Approximately we have 5,000 books, including the other reading materials such as magazines and periodicals as well, which has been collected in the last 6 months or so. And the numbers are increasing each day. All our workers, plus their families, in some cases, are being trained and educated. We have a space here which is limited. The rest of the books, we are going to classify them and to form other libraries within the city or eastern part of Turkey. We are going to reorganize or refurbish a garbage truck, which is going to be converted into a library, which will be a mobile one. And also at the same time, we are planning to collect the donations with this truck as well. As far as I know, this library is one of a kind in the world. And of course, our orchestra is also one of a kind. All those people who are performing are regular workers. They are using ordinary city waste collection equipments. Of course, they make some modifications to them as well to get the higher and the lower tones as well. We are using some other instruments as well, such as our national instrument, which we call it saz. It's a string instrument, but even this string instrument was found at the garbage, and they have modified it. And if we consider the real job that they are performing, which means collecting the municipal waste for 1 million population, it's a big number. And our garbage collection per night is approximately 1,350 tons. And at the same time, they have the ability to come up with new ideas each day. I'm very happy with them.
Celebrate summer with the CBC TV app.
You know what? Let's sit over there.
Whether you're in the great outdoors,
We're at the cottage!
on an urban getaway,
Is that a tan?
a little bit, or a staycation.
On your marks.
Get set. Hey! Stream hundreds of shows anytime.
Perfect.
For free.
I love looking out at the horizon and imagining all the possibilities.
So take CBC on all your summer adventures
This is amazing! But how?
with the CBC TV app.
So he is new to the world, but George Alexandre sure knows how to make an entrance. Born a couple weeks early and in a most dramatic fashion. You see, last week his mom started feeling uncomfortable. She'd had a tough pregnancy and thought it might be false labor, but it was bad enough that she called her husband to take her to the hospital, only she did not make it that far. What happened next is our moment of the day.
My wife, like in the middle of the stairs here, and then she started yelling and screaming. And then I was like, oh my God, what's going on? And then she said, I feel something is coming out. I was like, oh my God. And I start calling the neighbor. I need help, help, help.
They were telling us, oh, I have to sit down. So what I did, I like kind of hugged my husband so he can help me sit down.
And then I heard beep. I was like, oh my God. And I looked down, I saw something on the floor.
He was yellow. And in my head, I thought he was dead. So I told my husband, oh my God, he's dead. And I just passed out.
Thanks to the paramedic, right, and the firefighters who came within 5 minutes, they were here. And when they first came, they reassured us. It was all that community reunion, right? Everybody came up together. All the neighbors came up. Everybody wanted to help. Everybody feel they were part of what's going on. And then at that specific point, there were no immigration, where you come from, black, white. It was just human being trying to help another human being.
Okay, not to diminish the profundity of what he just said, but I love that couple. They're so interesting. Her line about, I thought he was dead, so I passed out, was kind of funny in the circumstance. But the other thing, Adrian, is, as he points out, how heartwarming the reaction of the neighbors.
Oh, no, this is such a great story for that reason, too. It seems that the couple didn't really know the neighbors before this moment. They surely know them now, because people came out of the woodwork. One woman came over, immediately called 911. There was another neighbor who happened to be a cop, who came over, who took instructions. People started telling each other what to do, and they all really know each other very well now. And that baby has a whole new community around him.
Yeah, that police officer apparently was on the phone to 911 and relayed the instructions to the dad, and the dad said that the police officer just calmed him down, just kept low. I've been through a couple of births as a passenger, obviously, just, you know, in the delivery room watching. That was hard enough. I can't imagine having to play the role that he had to play after his wife passed out. Anyway, that is The National for July the 12th. Good night.
Good night.